Far beyond Earth, where the stars looked colder and quieter than any sky humans had ever known, an orbital colony drifted in slow silence around a pale blue gas giant. The station was called Meridian 1-2, a place built from metal, hope, and careful cooperation between species that had once feared each other. Humanity had joined the wider galaxy only a few years earlier, carrying the memory of wars, loss, and survival that almost no other civilization could fully understand. Most days on Meridian, 1-2 passed gently. Soft lights followed an artificial sunrise and sunset. Air moved in quiet currents through curved hallways. Translators whispered meaning between different tongues. Life here was calm in a way Earth had not been for centuries. Elias Ward liked that calm. He was an engineer, the kind who fixed small problems before they became dangerous ones. He preferred listening to machines instead of speaking in crowded rooms. His hands were usually marked with thin lines of grease, and his uniform sleeves were often rolled to the elbows. Other humans called him quiet. Some aliens called him patient. Elias thought of himself as someone who simply paid attention. That was how he first noticed Lyra. She had arrived as part of an Alliance diplomatic mission, though she did not look important in the usual way. She moved slowly, carefully, as if every step was chosen with thought. Her species was tall and slender, with faint silver patterns along her skin that shimmered softly under station lights. Her eyes held a color Elias could never quite name, somewhere between blue and distant starlight. Many diplomats spoke loudly, eager to explain their cultures. Lyra did the opposite. She watched. She listened. She asked small questions that felt deeper than they sounded. The first time she spoke to Elias, he was repairing a damaged climate panel in a quiet corridor. He did not hear her approach. He only noticed a gentle voice behind him asking what the panel did. He explained in simple words, expecting polite silence. Instead, she asked another question, and then another. Not technical questions, but human ones. Why did he choose this work? Did he enjoy fixing things? Did machines ever feel lonely in silence? No one had ever asked him that last question before. He gave a small, uncertain laugh and said machines did not feel anything. She tilted her head slightly, as if considering whether that answer was fully true. After that day, she appeared often. Never suddenly. Never loudly. Just nearby, watching stars through observation glass. Sitting across from him in the quiet dining area, learning the strange rhythm of human conversation. Time moved softly between them. Elias showed her old Earth music through a translation filter. She did not understand the words at first, but she listened to the emotion and the sound. She shared fragments of her own culture, stories shaped like memories, where time folded instead of moving straight. Some ideas were too complex for human language, yet he felt their meaning anyway. Weeks became months. Other crew members began to notice how often they were together. No one spoke about it directly, but smiles followed them in hallways. Humans were still new to the galaxy, and any friendship between species felt important. One evening, under the dim glow of simulated starlight in the observation dome, Lyra spoke a human sentence with careful precision. She had practiced the sounds many times before saying them aloud. "No matter what comes," she said quietly, "we stay together." Human. Fragile in a way promises always were. Elias felt something warm and uncertain rise in his chest. Humans understood promises differently than most species. To them, a promise was not just sound. It was weight, responsibility, hope, mixed with fear. He did not answer immediately. He only nodded once, slowly, because the moment felt too large for many words. From that night on, the station felt different to him. Not brighter, not louder, just more meaningful. Even routine repairs seemed lighter. Even silence felt shared. Yet small shadows had already begun to form. though Elias did not see them clearly at first. Meridian 1, 2 followed a strict cycle of artificial day and night. Lights dimmed to near darkness during the midnight phase, allowing biological rhythms to rest. Most residents slept. Only security drones and a few night technicians remained awake. Elias sometimes worked late shifts, but he noticed something strange. Lyra was never present during the midnight cycle, not once. At first he assumed her species required different rest hours. Many did. But patterns matter to engineers. Every night at exactly the same minute, small system irregularities appeared. Nothing dangerous. A brief flicker in energy flow. A moment of signal distortion in internal sensors. Problems so tiny that automated systems corrected them almost instantly. Still, they happened only at midnight. Still, Lyra was always gone. Elias told himself it meant nothing. Trust came naturally to him, and he did not want suspicion to poison something gentle. So he ignored the pattern. Or tried to. Days continued. Conversations continued. Quiet happiness continued. Until the night he woke, when he should have been asleep. There was no loud noise, no alarm. Just a feeling. Subtle, difficult to name. Engineers often sensed problems before instruments did. Something in the air felt tense, like silence holding its breath. He sat up slowly in his small quarters. The room was dark except for a thin blue safety light near the door. For a moment he considered lying back down. Then he noticed the time. Midnight. The same faint unease pulled at him again. Not fear, just curiosity mixed with concern. He rose, pulled on his boots, and stepped into the corridor. The hallway lights were dimmed to night level, casting long, soft shadows across curved metal walls. Everything looked peaceful, too peaceful. He walked without clear direction, guided only by instinct and memory of those tiny system irregularities. His footsteps were quiet, almost lost in the station's gentle hum. As he turned a corner near a restricted maintenance sector, he saw someone standing ahead in the darkness, tall, still. Silver patterns faintly glowing. Lyra. Relief came first, simple and immediate. Then confusion followed close behind. She had never been here at this hour before, never anywhere visible. He opened his mouth to speak her name. The word never left his lips. Something about her shape was wrong. Not broken, not injured, just uncertain. The edges of her form shimmered slightly, like light bending through invisible water. For a heartbeat, she looked both present and distant at the same time, as if reality could not fully decide where she belonged. Elias felt cold air move through his lungs. She slowly turned toward him. Her eyes widened. Not in anger, not in fear, but in something closer to sadness. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The entire station seemed to fall into deeper silence around them. When she finally stepped toward him, the strange distortion faded, and she looked normal again, completely real, completely familiar. But the quiet between them had changed. "You should be sleeping," she said softly. Her voice carried the same warmth as always, yet something fragile trembled beneath it. Elias searched her face, trying to match the person he knew with the impossible image he had just seen. Questions filled his mind, but none felt safe enough to ask. Instead, he spoke the simplest truth he had. "I woke up," he said. The word sounded small in the vast corridor. She looked at him for a long time, as if measuring something invisible. Regret touched her expression, brief, almost hidden. Then she gave a faint nod, the kind someone makes when a moment they hope to avoid has finally arrived. The station lights flickered once above them, just a tiny shift in brightness, easy to ignore. Elias did not ignore it anymore. The silence stretched, heavy, with everything unspoken. He realized, with slow certainty, that the calm life he had grown used to was beginning to crack open. And whatever truth waited beneath that crack had been hidden at midnight all along. Lyra's voice was barely more than a whisper when she spoke again. "I did not want you to see this," she said. Those words carried more weight than any alarm could have. Elias felt the future changing around him, quiet and unstoppable as the movement of stars. He did not yet understand the danger, the secrets, or the choice that would soon stand before him. But he understood one thing with perfect clarity. The promise they had made beneath foreign stars was about to be tested, and midnight had only just begun. The corridor remained quiet after her words faded into the dim blue light. Elias felt as if the air itself had grown heavier, pressing gently against his chest. He had faced broken engines, failing shields, and system fires before, yet none of those moments had felt like this. Machines were simple. They either worked or they did not. This silence was something else entirely. Lyra stood a few steps away from him, perfectly still. The soft silver patterns along her skin glowed faintly, then dimmed, as if they were following a rhythm he could not hear. For the first time since meeting her, Elias did not know what to say. Every question in his mind felt too sharp, as if speaking it might shatter something fragile between them. He tried to hold on to the calm voice he used when repairing delicate systems. "What did you mean?" he asked quietly. "That you didn't want me to see this?" Her eyes lowered for a moment, not in guilt, but in careful thought. She always chose her words slowly, yet tonight the pauses felt deeper, filled with weight. "There are truths," she said, "that cannot be shared without changing everything around them." He had expected confusion, maybe even danger, but not words that sounded like the beginning of an ending. "We already changed things," he replied gently, "when we met." She looked up at him again, and something warm flickered through her sadness. For a heartbeat, the familiar, quiet connection returned. Then it faded, replaced by worry that seemed older than either of them. The lights above them flickered once more, very slightly. Elias noticed it clearly now. His engineer's mind began fitting pieces together whether he wanted it to or not. Midnight, energy shifts, hidden movement, her absence, the strange distortion he had seen only moments ago. None of it felt like coincidence anymore. "Is the station in danger?" he asked. The question came from duty, but also from fear he did not want to name. Lyra did not answer immediately. That silence told him more than words could.
"Yes," she said at last, "but not in the way you think." Before he could respond, a faint vibration passed through the floor beneath their feet.
It was soft, almost gentle, like a distant echo traveling through metal. No alarm sounded. No emergency lights appeared. Anyone asleep would never notice. Elias noticed. His heart began to beat faster, though he forced his voice to stay calm. "What is happening at midnight?" For a moment he thought she might refuse again. Instead, she closed her eyes, as if reaching a decision she had tried to delay for a long time. "I was not sent here only as a diplomat," she said. The words felt quiet, but they landed with enormous weight. Elias kept his gaze steady on her. Somewhere deep inside, he had already known this, not the details but the truth behind the silence. "Then why were you sent?" he asked. Her answer came slowly, each word careful and clear. To hold something that must never be free. The gentle vibration in the station grew slightly stronger, then faded again. Elias felt cold move through his hands. He had heard stories since humanity joined the Alliance. Ancient dangers, lost civilizations, warnings carried in half-translated records. Most of them sounded distant, almost unreal. None of them had ever stood in front of him before. "What are you holding?" he whispered. Lyra looked directly into his eyes. There was no way to soften the truth now. An intelligence older than most stars your species is named, she said. It does not think the way living minds think. It only grows, consumes, and searches for more space to exist. Elias felt the corridor tilt slightly, though he knew it was only his balance shifting. "And it's inside you?" he asked. "Yes." The single word echoed louder than any alarm. For several seconds he could not speak. His mind tried to reject the idea, to reshape it into something logical and safe. But the memory of her distorted form in the darkness would not disappear. "Why would anyone do that to you?" he said quietly. Her expression softened, touched by something like gratitude. "It was my choice," she answered. "My people were created to contain what others could not stop. We do not fight it with weapons. We hold it with presence, with structure, with will." Elias struggled to understand. The idea of carrying a galaxy-ending force alone felt impossible. Yet she stood there calmly, as if describing ordinary duty. "Every midnight," she continued, "the boundary weakens for a short time. I must focus all of my mind to keep it sleeping. If I fail, even for a moment, it will begin to wake." The corridor felt suddenly too small, too fragile to hold such truth. "And the station?" Elias asked. "Why bring you here?" "Because something unexpected was discovered," she said. "Something about humans." He looked at her, confused despite everything. "Humans?" "Yes. Your species forms emotional bonds with unusual strength. Connection, loyalty, memory of shared feeling. These create patterns in neural activity that interfere with the entity's awareness. When I am near you, it becomes quieter." Elias stared at her, unable to move. "You're saying," he murmured, "that just being close helps you hold it?" "Yes." The simplicity of the answer made it feel even more real. All the quiet conversations, the shared music, the promise beneath the stars. None of it had been meaningless, but it had not been simple either. A painful thought rose slowly in his mind. Did you choose me?" he asked carefully. "Only because of that?" The question hung between them, fragile as glass. Lyra stepped closer. Just one small step. Her voice was softer than he had ever heard it. "I chose to speak to you because you listened," she said. Everything after that was real. Something tight in his chest loosened, though the fear remained. Another faint vibration moved through the station. Longer this time, somewhere far below. Energy systems adjusted with a low, distant hum. Midnight was deepening. Lyra's silver patterns brightened slightly, reacting to pressure he could not see.
"I must go,"
she said gently. "The boundary is weakening."
Elias felt sudden urgency. "Wait," he said.
"There has to be another way. You shouldn't carry this alone." Her eyes held a quiet sadness that felt almost peaceful. "I have never been alone," she replied. "Not since I met you." Before he could answer, footsteps echoed faintly from the far end of the corridor. Security personnel, moving carefully but quickly. They must have detected the energy fluctuations. Lyra sensed it too. "They cannot know you are here," she said. "If the Alliance believes you are involved, they will remove you for safety."
"I don't care about safety,"
Elias said. "I do." The firmness in her voice stopped him. Not anger, only protection. She reached out slowly and placed her hand against his. Her touch was cool, steady, real. The strange distortion was gone now, replaced by simple presence. "For a little while longer," she whispered. "Let the promise remain unchanged." The shadows around her seemed to bend softly, like light folding into deeper space, not disappearing, not vanishing, just moving somewhere his eyes could not follow. A second later, she was gone. Only the quiet corridor remained. Security officers turned the corner moments later, scanning the area with handheld sensors. Elias stood still, forcing his breathing to remain calm. To them, he was only an engineer awake at the wrong hour. They asked routine questions. He gave simple answers. None of them noticed the storm of thoughts moving through his mind. After they left, the station slowly returned to silence. The faint vibrations faded. Midnight passed. But nothing inside Elias returned to normal. He walked back to his quarters without remembering the path. Each step felt automatic, distant. When the door closed behind him, the quiet room seemed unfamiliar, like a place from an earlier life. He sat on the edge of his bed and stared at his hands. Somewhere in the darkness of the station, she was holding back something that could end civilizations. Alone, every night, and she had smiled with him under artificial stars, as if the universe were gentle. Understanding settled over him slowly, heavy but clear. The calm days were over. The promise they had shared was no longer only about staying together. It was about choosing what to protect. When the truth finally stepped out of the shadows, Elias looked toward the faint line of light beneath his door, waiting for morning that suddenly felt very far away. For the first time since arriving on Meridian 1-2, he realized something with quiet certainty. Midnight was not the most dangerous moment. What came after midnight would be. Morning on Meridian. 1-2 arrived with soft white light spreading through the curved windows of the station. To anyone walking the corridors, the day looked peaceful and ordinary. Workers moved toward their duties. Translators hummed gently in the air. Distant engines kept their steady rhythm. Nothing in the calm brightness suggested that something ancient and dangerous had pressed against the walls of reality only a few hours earlier. But Elias Ward felt the difference in every breath. He had not slept after returning to his quarters. He had tried, lying still in the dim blue glow, closing his eyes and slowing his breathing the way long shifts had trained him to do. Each time he drifted close to sleep, he saw the same image waiting in the darkness. Lyra standing in the corridor at midnight, her form uncertain, her voice carrying a truth too large for quiet conversation. By the time the artificial sunrise reached full brightness, he was already dressed and walking the halls again. His movements were calm, almost automatic, but inside his thoughts were moving quickly, searching for anything that could make sense of what he had learned. He knew one thing with complete certainty. He could not pretend ignorance anymore. Engineers were trained to face problems directly. If a system was failing, delay only made the damage worse. And something far greater than a broken machine was at risk now. As he passed through the central operations sector, he noticed security presence had increased. Officers stood in small groups, speaking in low voices. Portable scanners rested in their hands, active but silent. To most residents, it might look like routine caution. To Elias, it felt like the beginning of a decision forming somewhere above his clearance level. The Alliance had sensed the disturbance. He kept walking without drawing attention, heading toward the lower maintenance rings where few diplomats or commanders ever visited. The air there smelled faintly of metal and recycled coolant, a scent he had always found strangely comforting. Simple places made more sense than political chambers, yet even here, the memory of her words followed him. An intelligence older than most stars, a boundary that weakened every midnight, humans somehow able to quiet it. He stopped beside a silent wall panel and rested his hand against the cool surface. The station vibrated gently with contained power. Normally that sound felt steady, reassuring. Today it felt fragile, as if the entire structure depended on something unseen. A quiet realization rose in his mind, slow but impossible to ignore. If the Alliance truly understood the danger inside Lyra, they would never allow uncertainty to remain. They would choose the safest solution. And the safest solution in the language of governments and survival, was often the most final one. The thought sent a cold weight through his chest. He pushed away from the wall and continued walking, though he no longer had a clear destination. He only knew he needed answers before someone else made a choice he could not undo. Hours passed in restless motion. He checked system logs under routine authority, careful not to trigger alerts. Most data looked normal, but deep inside, restricted energy reports, he found patterns that confirmed his fear. Midnight fluctuations had been growing stronger over the past weeks. Small at first, then measurable, now impossible to ignore. Someone in command would see this soon if they had not already. As the station moved toward its artificial afternoon, a quiet message appeared on his wrist display. No sender name, only a location code and an unused observation ring near the outer hull. His heart tightened once, then steadied. He knew who had sent it. The observation ring was empty when he arrived. Wide, transparent panels curved above the walkway, revealing the endless dark of space and the slow swirl of the blue gas giant below. Light from distant stars painted faint reflections across the floor. Lyra stood near the glass, motionless, watching the universe with the same quiet focus she had shown the first day they met. For a moment, nothing felt dangerous, just two figures beneath foreign stars. Then she turned, and he saw the exhaustion she was trying to hide. Her silver patterns were dimmer than before, like fading light at the end of evening.
"You did not sleep," she said softly.
Neither did you, he answered. A faint, almost human smile touched her expression, then disappeared. The boundary grows weaker, she said. Holding it requires more of my mind each night. Elias stepped closer, stopping only when the distance between them felt honest, not formal, not distant, real. Then we need another solution, he said. There may not be one. There has to be. The firmness in his voice surprised even him. He was not arguing from logic anymore. He was speaking from something deeper, something human and stubborn. She studied him quietly. Your leaders will act soon, she said. When they confirm the risk, they will choose destruction over uncertainty. It is the only decision that protects the greatest number of lives. He felt anger rise, sharp but controlled. You're not a calculation, he said. You're a person. I am also a containment, she replied gently. Both truths exist. Silence settled between them, heavy with everything neither wanted to face. Elias looked out at the endless stars, searching for clarity in their distant light. Humanity had survived disasters by refusing to abandon hope, even when logic said hope was foolish. That refusal had carried them from a wounded Earth into the wider galaxy. Maybe that same refusal mattered now. What if you didn't have to hold it alone? He asked quietly. She turned toward him slowly.
That is not possible. You said human minds affect it, quiet it.
Yes, then share the burden. The words felt impossible the moment he spoke them, yet also strangely certain, like an idea waiting to be discovered. Her eyes widened slightly, not in fear but in something closer to shock. That connection could destroy you, she said. No human has ever touched the entity's boundary and remained whole. Pain moved across her expression, quick and bright. I will not let you risk your existence for me. You already risk yours every night for everyone, he said. Why is my choice different? Because I care about you, the silence between them seemed to say, though neither spoke it aloud. A distant tone echoed faintly through the station, not an alarm, a command signal. High authority. Both of them understood immediately. The decision above them had begun. Lyra closed her eyes for a brief moment, as if listening to something far away. They know, she whispered. Elias felt time narrowing, like a corridor with walls moving closer. Then we don't have much time, he said. Her gaze returned to his, filled with quiet sorrow and something deeper. Hope she was afraid to hold. You do not understand what you are offering, she said. Then help me understand, he replied. For a long moment, she said nothing. Stars drifted silently beyond the glass. The gas giant turned in endless calm, unaware of the fragile lives above it. Finally, she spoke. If our minds connect during the midnight weakening, you will feel what the entity is. Not thoughts, not images, only endless hunger and expansion. Many stronger than you have lost themselves in that silence. Elias listened without looking away. And if I don't lose myself? He asked. Then the boundary could stabilize in a new way, she said. Shared. Balanced. Something the Alliance has never seen. Hope, fragile and dangerous, entered the space between them. Another distant command tone sounded, louder this time. They are preparing containment protocols, she said. If they begin, there will be no choice left. Elias took a slow breath. Then we choose before they do. Fear moved through him, real and undone. He did not try to hide it. Courage was not the absence of fear. Humanity had learned that lesson many times. It was the decision to step forward. Anyway, he reached out his hand, not touching her yet, simply offering. For several heartbeats she only looked at it, as if the future rested in that small distance. Tears did not exist in her species the way humans understood them, yet something in her eyes shimmered, like breaking light. You would face the end of yourself, she said quietly, just to give me a chance to live.
Not just you, he said. Everyone. The truth felt simple when spoken aloud.
Another tone echoed through the station, sharp now. Final. Midnight would come again soon, and when it did, the choice waiting in the darkness would decide more than 2 lives beneath foreign stars. Slowly, gently, Lyra placed her hand in his. Her touch trembled for the first time since he had known her. Then, when midnight returns, she whispered, we face it together. Alias closed his fingers around hers, steady despite the storm rising inside him. Beyond the glass, distant stars burned in silent witness. For the first time in countless ages, the fate of something ancient and terrible would depend not on weapons, not on power, but on a single human decision to remain beside someone who was never meant to carry eternity alone. And the next midnight was already on its way.